times the size of Washington, D.C., and you can get lost in it real quick if you don't know where you're going out here. Now, where we are right now, we are on the West Pearl River. Now, the Pearl River starts all the way up in Philadelphia. Philadelphia, Mississippi. That's just about 30 miles north of Jackson, Mississippi. This is a pure freshwater river, and it's all, the sources of this water is entirely rainwater from up in Mississippi. All that flooding that's going on over the Mississippi River, none of that has any bearing on anything out here. We won't be flooding at all down here. Now, when the Pearl River comes south to the Gulf of Mexico, when it hits the tip of the boot of Louisiana, it breaks off into 5 rivers. Each one of them is a pearl. We've got the West Pearl, the West Middle Pearl, the Middle Pearl, the East Middle Pearl, and the East Pearl. The swamp people are kind of slow. We can't different names. They kind of forget them, so we just leave them all a pearl. But anyway, where we are right now, we are in a marsh swamp. 10 miles south is the Gulf of Mexico. Now, I want you to think of this area out here as a flooded meadow. If you look out here, you notice there aren't a lot of trees out here. The reason why is because we're so close, we're close enough to the Gulf of Mexico that saltwater incursion, saltwater coming up from the Gulf, makes its way up here from storm surges, also into the water table. It affects the soil, so there's not a lot of tree growth. You see a few here. If we were to go down about another 2 miles, the trees stop altogether. Now, this area, even though you don't see a lot of trees, there's a lot of life, as you can see out here. All the birds you see out here, these white birds, we have basically 2 varieties of white birds. We have the heron and the egret. Now, the way to tell the difference, the heron has a yellow beak, the egret has a black beak. Among the egrets we have the snowy egret, we have what we call the golden slipper egret. It's a white egret, but if you'll see him take off, you'll see he's got black legs, but his feet are yellow, golden, like he's wearing gold slippers, so called the golden slipper. Now, this area out here is really important. We have wild hogs all through here. We pulled out last year, hunters around here grabbed a 400-pound hog out of this marsh down here last winter. Took out 2 honey dogs, pretty nasty, big monster. We got bobcat all through here, panther. I had a panther go across my yard, and I'm not kidding. I had a panther go across my yard 15 weeks ago. I had to call wildlife and fisheries and report them. They're really excited about that. They're slowly starting to show up out here. Hunters are finding them on their cameras and stuff, so we're really excited about that. But more importantly around in here, this is the area where the female alligators like to go when they get pregnant. All through the spring, all the way on, when they're ready to lay their eggs, they'll come out here and they'll get up in these grasses and they'll lay 30 to 60 eggs out in the grasses, and then they'll take a bunch of dead debris and they'll pile that dead debris on top of those eggs to make a mound. And that mound is going to cook in this summer heat in the sun here, and the temperature that the eggs heat up to is going to determine the sex of the hatchlings. 90 degrees is the dividing line. 87 degrees and below, they're going to come out as female. The males are hotter. 92 and above, they come out as male, and everything in the middle, I guess, is nature's choice. But once she makes that mound, she's got to guard it all summer long. Because every raptor bird up in the sky, every owl, every eagle, every hawk, every snake, every raccoon knows it's a cheap meal. And they're going to try to raid that mound and eat those eggs, so she's got to sit next to it all summer long. Once the eggs hatch, they're going to call to her in the mound, and she's going to take those jaws of hers and gently dig them out and carry them in her jaws, and she's going to take them to an area of safe refuge. That means an area with no big alligators. Once a male mates, he's out of there. If a large alligator finds a little hatchling in the water, he'll eat it like an hors d'oeuvre. They're cannibalistic. So she's going to find an area without any big gators and let them go, and hopefully they'll learn how to survive. If 10 out of those 60 eggs makes it for the first 2 years, she's had a good mating season, and she's had a good production. The mortality rate for baby alligators is very, very low, but there's a lot of baby alligators that come out here in the summer, so our population is nice and strong up here. In fact, we have Louisiana has the largest population of alligators in the United States. Now I'm going to head us upriver. We're going to make a couple of turns in the river, and just like that, I'm going to have us in a hardwood swamp. Okay, this is a flooded meadow. I'm going to take you up. We're going to wind up in a flooded forest. And by the time I get you halfway through this thing, folks, it's going to look like the Amazon, I promise you, okay? Now, everybody here is an assistant swamp guide. Keep your eyes out on the banks of the river, a little bit ahead of the boat as we move up. Looking on the snags on the river, along the banks of the river, birds, alligators, turtles. Who had a pet turtle as a kid? That little green turtle? Remember that little cute little called a red-eared slider? Used to be able to buy them in a drugstore when I was a kid. They are from this area, except out here, they get to be 1.5 feet long. So you're going to see some big, big turtles out here. Birds up in the sky. There's an eagle nest upriver, about 5 miles upriver. We might spot an eagle. All these different herons and egrets and stuff, I'll try to point them out as we go. If you see something, call it out, because if I'm looking to the left and you see something on the right, I might miss it, okay?
Stop you.
Yeah, stop me and we'll go check it out. And if you have any questions, I don't care how stupid you think it is, go ahead and ask, okay? If you want to have some fun out here and learn some things about the swamp too, I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. Okay? Yes, ma'am?
Those lily pads with the yellow flowers?
Yes?
Do you know what those are?
God, that's a stupid question. that little yellow flower is called the American lotus. Now, the lily pads have 2 varieties of flowers. The most common is the lotus, the little yellow flower, which we'll be seeing close up. The other one is a beautiful white flower that comes up and it has little spiked little petals on it. They're not as common. We might see 1 or 2 here and there. I love that flower. It's a lot prettier, but it's called the American lotus.
Okay, you don't have, it has the hyacinths have been faded.
Not yet, no. We have hyacinth out here, but she's talking about a plant, and I'll point some out to you out here. It's an invasive species that actually comes from South America called water hyacinth. It grows so quickly that it actually can destroy an entire ecosystem. It almost destroyed Lake Victoria in Africa back in 1970. It grew so fast it clogged up all of the ports of Lake Victoria. It grows so thick the sun can't get through to the water, and it kills off all the wildlife underneath it. It had cut off all of the ports of Lake Victoria and was moving out into the main part of the lake. At the 11th hour, they found an enzyme that will kill it. Our wildlife and fisheries use that enzyme very sparingly. If we see a patch of hyacinth that looks like it's getting out of control, they'll come and spray it and kill it off. We try to keep a strong control on that. Now, these egrets you see over here, the reason you see them in bunches over here is they're all starting to establish their rookeries. These are females. And what they're doing is they're all creating their nests up here. They create a rookery. All the females will lay their nests together in a clump on a tree or in a bunch of bushes together, because there's power in numbers. When they have all their nests together like that, if a hawk or an owl comes by, one of them is going to sound the alarm and they're all going to be on alert. So you'll see them in big bunches like that. Alrighty, now the snowy egret is going to be the one that you'll see that has these kind of wispy tail feathers that come off the back of the tail. Those birds almost went into extinction back in the 1920s because their feathers were very popular for ladies' hats. Once the locals found out they could make a buck off it, they almost wiped them all out, hunting them for the feathers. And Teddy Roosevelt was a great conservationist. When he became president, he actually made a national appeal to the general population to stop wearing those feathers because the species was getting ready to die off, and overnight the demand stopped. He almost single-handedly saved the species out here. Okay, guys, have a seat. We're going to head on upriver and see what we can find out here.